Okay, so for this video, we're going to be looking at acceleration on displacement versus time graph. So this is our speeding up and slowing down. Let's start off by looking at the Cartesian coordinate system. We have our positive x going to the right, positive y going up, negative x going to the left, and negative y going downwards. So we're just going to draw a couple of lines. Line number 1 has a positive slope, but it's not very steep, so it would be a low number. Line number 2 is much steeper, and again, it's positive. So this, in terms of physics, would mean a large positive velocity. This would be a lower positive velocity. Okay, in math, if we have a line that looks like this, it is a negative slope, not very steep. And our second line is still a negative slope, but it is a much steeper line. So in terms of physics, this would be a negative velocity, low value, negative velocity, larger value. So we can also take our Cartesian coordinate system and make it look like a compass rose. So normally when we do this, we say that east is positive, north is positive, west would be negative, and south would be negative. These are just direction values. Okay, so let's take a look at our first graph. So we want to look at something that is speeding up or has positive acceleration. So the way I like to do this is start off by saying, right here, I have absolutely no velocity because it is a horizontal line, and horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Now further on, I want to put a diagonal line. Now this is a positive slope, so this would mean that I have some positive velocity. Now the only thing that connects these two lines is a smooth curve that essentially looks like that. So at the beginning of the motion, we have a velocity of 0. At the end, I'm just going to give it a number of 2. So I've gone from 0 meters per second to 2 meters per second. This curve right here represents our changing velocity, and this is positive acceleration. Okay, for the second one, we're going to take a look at slowing down. So we're going to start off by having some positive velocity, and then over here, I'm going to make my horizontal line because a horizontal line has a 0 slope, which means 0 velocity. And now we draw a smooth curve to connect these two. Okay, so once again, we started off with a velocity, and I'm just randomly calling it 2. So we went from 2 meters per second to 0 meters per second. We've slowed down, or we've come to rest. This is called negative acceleration. Okay, we can also accelerate in the negative direction. So I'm going to start off with a velocity of 0, which is my horizontal line. And then over here, I'm going to make my negative diagonal line. And remember, we said in terms of math, a line that goes up and to the left is a negative slope. And the smooth curve that connects these two looks something like that. So in this case, we started with an initial velocity of 0. We ended with a velocity of minus 2 meters per second. So this is speeding up in a negative direction, otherwise known as negative acceleration. And our last one will be slowing down, which is positive acceleration. So I'm going to start off by having some negative velocity, and then I want to go to rest. And the smooth curve that joins those two looks something like this. So we've gone from having a velocity of negative 2 meters per second to 0 meters per second. So this is slowing down, and the only way you're actually slowing down in this case would be if you are accelerating positively. Okay, so just to recap all 4 graphs. Speeding up, or positive acceleration, start off with an initial velocity of 0, horizontal line. A little while later, we're going with a positive velocity, which we said was 2 meters per second. Smooth curve that joins those two line segments. Slowing down, or negative acceleration, we started off with 2 meters per second of speed or velocity. A little while later, we've come to rest. Smooth curve that joins the two. We can have speeding up with negative acceleration. This is in the opposite direction. Start off with a velocity of 0. A little while later, we're traveling at minus 2 meters per second. Smooth curve that joins the two. We can also have a slowing down, which is a positive acceleration, and that's when we start off with a negative velocity and eventually come to rest, and there's the curve that joins the two. And what you'll notice is the word negative acceleration is used, not deceleration. Deceleration is a slang term which does not properly explain the process of slowing down.